Opinion India's crumbling bridge is a nightmare that must stop forthwith. On Wednesday, July 9, at around 7:30 am, nightmare was unleashed in broad daylight in Gujarat when a 1520 segment of the 40-year-old 830-meter-long Gambhira Bridge, a key connector between central Gujarat and the Saurashtra region, caved in, resulting in more than half a dozen vehicles getting submerged into the underneath Mahisagar River. The bridge connecting the Vadodara and Anand districts of Gujarat was heavily patronized by truckers, tankers, and people wanting to avoid the toll on the Vadodara-Ahmedabad expressway. As is the case with most disasters in Bharat today, ill-equipped villagers from the nearby area were the first to take on the challenge of the rescue and relief operations before the team of NDRF, SDRF, and fire brigade reached the site. Ironically, but for an 8-wheeled tanker precariously hanging like a Damocles sword tethering at the brink of the ill-fated bridge, more vehicles could have drowned in the river, resulting in a much bigger casualty. The rescue and relief operations continued on the fourth day after the collapse of the Gambhira Bridge over the Mehi River in Padra Talika. Though the rescue teams with great difficulty have managed to retrieve all the vehicles from the riverbed, there is no final word yet on the rescued injured and the retrieval of the bodies of the dead from beneath the river. The rescue and relief work was rendered extremely difficult, with the recovery operations hindered by the incessant rains and thick mud in the riverbed. On Wednesday, the day of the accident, the original casualty number reported was 12 dead, including 3 from a family. Also, 9 injured people were saved by the rescuers. By the time I began writing this piece on July 10, the number of dead had jumped to 18. When I was close to finishing the piece on July 11, the number of dead climbed to 20, with the recovery of 1 more body and the death of an injured person. As I conclude the piece on July 12, the number of dead has climbed to 21, with 1 more death. Sadly, even this is not likely to be the final number of casualties, because at least 2 more persons are missing. It is too early to say with a reasonable degree of confidence why and how the Gambhira Bridge collapsed. Nonetheless, one palpable reason is evident: the bridge was constructed in another era, 1985 to be precise. In those days, tow-axle trucks, smaller light commercial vehicles, and lighter passenger vehicles plied Indian roads and highways, and a bridge constructed then was unfit for handling the fast-growing movement of multi-axle trucks, trailers, and tankers, and passenger automobiles. That being the case, the Gambhira Bridge collapse was just waiting to happen. But why did the bridge collapse? It will take time to unravel the root cause of the collapse. It is possible, like most bridge collapses in the country, that the root cause may not be known or may not be made public even if known. In the interim, Rushikesh Patel, Gujarat Health Minister and government spokesperson, stated on Friday, July 11, that as per the preliminary investigation, the collapse of the Mujapur Gambhira Bridge was due to the structural failure, specifically the crushing of pedestals and articulation joints. But the moot question that begs an answer is why too many bridges in Bharat keep tumbling down with alarming frequency. I will address this question in a short while. Before that, here in brief are the rituals that are performed after every major accident. As happens in the aftermath of every such tragic accident, the President of India, Draupadi Murmu, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Gujarat Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel, and others have expressed shock at the unfortunate accident and expressed their condolences to the affected families. Also, true to their salt, the opposition parties of all hues have squarely blamed the government for the mishap. A spokesman of the Congress party has gone to the extent of asserting that the hollow Gujarat model is another name for corruption. With rituals of expressing shock, offering condolences, and the blame game for the accident done with, it is time for yet another ritual, customary ex gratia announcement to the accident victims. Next comes the existential question: how much worth is the life of hapless victims of such accidents, whose only fault was that they were crossing the bridge constructed, managed, and maintained by governments? Make no mistake, the innocent victims are not responsible for their deaths in accidents like the latest bridge collapse. Whether their gruesome death was owing to the structural flaws in the bridge or improper maintenance, indubitably, the blame squarely rests with the government departments responsible for keeping them in safe, usable conditions. Above being the case, what should be the reasonable compensation payable to the victims, both dead and severely injured. The governments have put the price of life lost to a paltry sum of Rs 6 lakh to the next of the dead Rs 2 lakh from the Prime Minister's Relief Fund and Rs 4 lakh from the Gujarat government. As regards the injured, irrespective of the severity of injuries, the compensation to be dispensed is an abysmal Rs 1 lakh Rs 50,000 each from the central and the state governments. I often wonder, is this the fair value of the life of innocent Bharatias whose death or injury is caused by the negligence of governmental authorities? I admit that no amount of monetary compensation can replace the life lost, dreams shattered, and families driven to penury, but I get genuinely baffled by the prevailing situation in Bharat for a valid reason. Here goes my reason. Victims of the latest Air India disaster at Ahmedabad will each receive Rs 1 crore from the Tata Group and almost the same amount from the insurance proceeds. Why does Bharat price the cost of human casualties by the type of mode of travel? It must end forthwith. It is time for a drastic overhaul of the current paradigm of the way the country values the cost of the lives of innocents dying with alarming frequency in eminently avoidable disasters on roads, highways, bridges, and railways. It is time to shift to a just and fair compensation regime. Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel has ordered a high-level inquiry to be conducted by the state's Roads and Buildings Department. The committee must submit its report directly to the CM within 30 days. In the interim, 4 junior engineers, executive engineers and assistant engineers have been suspended. The bridge collapse story from the breaking news on TV channels and front page coverage in the print media has already exited the media coverage till the next such accident happens somewhere in the country. Going by the past track record of such major accidents in the country, I can say so with reasonable degree of confidence that nothing much will emerge from the inquiry by the department which itself was responsible for the upkeep of the bridges. No accountability will be fixed, and no real punishment meted out. A case in point is the Morbi Bridge collapse in 2022, in which 141 people lost their lives. While some individuals, including those from the contractor side, were arrested and charged in connection with the collapse, no one has been convicted or sentenced yet, and the case is ongoing. Many victims' families are still seeking justice and accountability. The above being the case of the more serious Morbi accident, it is reasonable to expect that, sooner rather than later, the Gamhira Bridge accident too will be forgotten, and the case shall stand closed. I wish the Gamhira Bridge collapse were an isolated event. Sadly, it is not the case. Only in Gujarat, at least 6 bridge collapses have been chronicled since 2021. With the latest accident next only to Morbi in scale of the disaster, casualties, and damage to property. Bridges continue to collapse in Bharat at an alarming frequency, some during construction, after completion, before inauguration, and during usage. A typical case is that of Bihar, where nearly 24 bridges collapsed in 2 years between 2022 and 2024, out of which 14 collapsed in just 1 month in 2024. Though 10 engineers were suspended, suspension is no punishment. No concrete measure was taken to prevent the frequent collapse of bridges. Bridge collapses are not confined to Bihar and Gujarat. Here are some more recent cases of 2025 FIRST. On June 15, 2025, an iron pedestrian bridge over the Indrayani River collapsed near Pune, Maharashtra. At least 4 people died, and dozens were injured. The reason for the collapse was ascribed to the overloading of the Britishpura Bridge. Second, on May 3, 2025, at least 3 persons were killed and 2 others critically injured after a concrete slab fell on them during the construction of a bridge near Kanagar. The bridge was part of the 6-lane road conversion from the Kathajodi riverside of NH16 to Cuttack Netaji Bus Terminal CNBT. There were many more cases in 2024, 2023, and 2022. For example, Mumbai Ghatkapar 17 dead in 2024, girder failure of an under-construction railway bridge in Mizoram 30 dead in 2023, and the most gruesome Morbi Bridge collapse 141 killed in 2022. Moreover, the above is not even a partial story. A study published in 2020 in the international journal Structure and Infrastructure Engineering reported that between 1977 and 2020, Bharat accounted for the collapse of more than 2,130 bridges excluding culverts and pedestrian bridges, including many under construction. Alarmingly, the study further noted that while the average life of Indian bridges was 35 years, the global average was more than 50 years. At the same time, Indian bridges reported a 25% or higher mortality rate than the global average. The task of preventing bridge collapses begins with knowing how many bridges Bharat has, knowing their precise conditions through structural audits and frequent inspections, and taking timely preventive and corrective measures. When Bharat does not count its bridges properly, how can it have the framework of robust maintenance? Bridge construction and maintenance in the country are in the hands of many institutions: the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, Indian Railways, Border Road Organization, state PWDs, city governments, and others. Worse, there is no uniform practice of inspection, structural audit, and taking other measures to prevent bridges from collapsing. With each agency maintaining its own records in its own way, India lacks a unified database of bridges, making it almost impossible to have a composite picture of the total number of bridges and their condition. Nonetheless, here is an attempt to quantify the problems per GOI Press Information Bureau data. As on January 4, 2019, there were 1,50,74 bridges on Indian Railways network. Also, as per another GOI data reported by the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, as on 112,019, there were 1,72,517 bridges inventoried under the Indian Bridge Management System. If one adds the number of rail and road bridges constructed since 2019 and further adds up the bridges under state and city governments and organizations like BRO, it is highly probable that the country has no less than 500,000 bridges. Proper maintenance of 500,000 plus bridges in Indian conditions, where bridges are under continuous stress of fast-growing goods and passenger traffic. 90% of goods throughput and an equal percentage of passenger traffic requires a robust maintenance paradigm and a move away from the HAL to high attitude. Bharat is today the most populous country in the world. It also boasts the world's second largest urban population after China. The current urban population is more than 1.5 times the total population of the USA. Also, the urban population will be 600 million by 2023 and 822,877 million by 2050. Also, the Indian economy is growing fast. By the end of 2025, Bharat will have the fourth largest economy, by 2028 the third largest economy of the world, and by 2047, it aspires to be a developed economy. Bharat also aims to be the manufacturing capital of the world. That being the case, roads and rail bridges in India must manage more fast-growing goods and passenger traffic without the periodic shock of caving in. And to increase bridges' life, their ability to carry fast increasing loads of traffic, the integrity and stability of the bridges must be enhanced many notches. The reasons for bridge collapses are well known. These include the design flaws, including but not limited to inadequate load-bearing capacity, improper material selection, or faulty engineering calculations compromising the structural integrity of a bridge, poor construction material and poor workmanship, comprehensive maintenance neglect and lack of proper inspection and audit, lack of upgradation in time to handle increasing traffic, overloading, and natural causes like floods and extreme weather conditions that impact the integrity of the bridges. Swipe left for next video. The list of causes of bridge collapses is myriad, but the nation has no option but to make bridges accident-proof using a robust combination of design, construction, and maintenance-related world best practices and Indian next practices. If cutting corners is not stopped today, if the collapse of bridges is not stopped forthwith, and concrete measures are not taken today to build and maintain bridges to the highest level of safety, it will not be consistent with the dream of making the country Viksit Bharat. The author is a multidisciplinary thought leader with action bias, India-based international impact consultant, and keen watcher of changing national and international scenarios. He works as president, advisory services of consulting company Barsil. Views expressed in the above piece are personal and solely those of the author. They do not necessarily reflect NEWS18's views. Latest blogs.